Nobody told me I couldn't bring him. That is the entire defense I have ever offered, and I stand by it. The orientation summons said mandatory attendance for all Earth cohort cadets, Gesevar Station Secondary Annex, Chamber 11, 0900. It did not say unaccompanied. It did not say fauna restricted. There was a small symbol at the bottom of the notice I later learned meant Cooperative Administrative Space, no Deathworld biologicals, but at the time, I read it as a decorative border. Cade was on his leash. His vest said, Support Animal, in 2 languages. I had paperwork. Chamber 11 was tiered, 12 rows of curved seating descending to a presentation floor, the kind of room where information travels in one direction and questions are not encouraged. I came in at 0852 and found a seat 4 rows from the front. Cade went under the desk without being asked. He was good about that. He was good about most things. The other cadets arrived in the next several minutes, mostly Vethal, the taller variant, with the secondary ridge coloring that meant upper-tier academic track. A cluster of Dresh in the back, sealed in their atmospheric suits. One Corvani cadet who took 1 step into the room, stopped, looked at Cade, and selected a seat in the very last row against the wall. I noted this without particular curiosity. Cade noticed the Corvani and wagged twice, then went back to resting his chin on his front paws. The briefing officer arrived at 0900 exactly. Vethal, senior grade, with the triple band insignia of the Cooperative Orientation Corps. She carried a data slate and the specific posture of someone who has delivered the same information many times and is comfortable with its weight. She sat up at the presentation console. The room lights adjusted. The display panels on the far wall warmed to the Cooperative seal. She did not look at Cade immediately. I respected the professionalism. Welcome to Earth Threat Profile Orientation, Session Designation OC7, she said. This briefing is required under Cooperative Integration Statute 41 for all cadets assigned to joint training environments with Earth origin personnel. Duration is 90 minutes. There will be no questions until the final segment. Standard opening. I had my notes open. The first segment was geological. Earth's tectonic instability, its atmospheric volatility, its irregular electromagnetic behavior. Charts. The kind of information that was technically alarming if you had not lived through a Midwest spring. I copied down 2 statistics I didn't know. Cade yawned. It was a large yawn, the kind that involves a full extension of the jaw and a small sound at the end. Half whine, half groan, entirely involuntary. The Vethal cadet directly to my left made a short, sharp movement. Not a flinch exactly, but the category of motion adjacent to a flinch. I wrote this down too, out of habit. The second segment was ecological. The briefing officer moved to Earth's predator taxonomy. This was where the presentation became more visually engaged. Footage, rather than charts. High resolution, slow motion. The kind of film produced for documentation purposes by people who had spent significant time at a safe distance. Various apex fauna in their natural behaviors. The footage was accurate. I recognized most of what I was watching. Cade had relocated from under the desk to beside it. He had his head up now, ears forward, because something in the audio, probably the low-frequency components of the footage's ambient sound, had caught his attention. He looked at the screen with the focused, pleasant expression he used when watching birds through a window. His tail was moving at approximately 1 wag per 2 seconds. The Dresh in the back had stopped moving. All of them. They went still, in the way that pressurized suits go still when the people inside them are holding a collective breath. The briefing officer advanced to slide 7, Apex Predator Coordination Behaviors, Pack Dynamics, the ability of Earth fauna to organize, communicate, and execute cooperative aggression under environmental stress. She was reading from the slate, her delivery measured and even, the rehearsed cadence of someone working through a document they know by memory. She got through slide 7. She got through slide 8. On slide 9, Earth biology, immune response, recovery rates, the charts that tended to produce the strongest reaction in non-Earth audiences. The Vethal cadet 2 rows down and to the right made a quiet sound. Not a word. A sound. The briefing officer paused for half a second, then continued. Cade heard the sound. He raised his head, located the cadet in question, and thumped his tail 4 times against the floor. He did not get up. He just looked at the cadet the way he looked at everyone, with the absolute, uncalculating warmth of an animal that has sorted every being it has ever encountered into one category, and that category is friend. The Vethal cadet looked back. I have tried to describe, in the incident report I was later asked to file, what happened to the cadet's face in that moment. The closest I could get was the expression of a being who has made an error in a calculation and is not yet certain of the scale of the error. The secondary ridges, which I understood from biology briefings, were involuntary threat response indicators, rose and stayed raised. The briefing officer noticed the cadet. She noticed Cade. She advanced to slide 10. Slide 10 was recovery rates, standard stuff. I had seen the charts before. The Corvani cadet in the last row got up. Quietly, slowly, the way you stand up in a library. He moved to the door and went through it without making a sound. The door sealed behind him. The briefing officer continued. Slide 11, slide 12. The Dresch contingent had achieved a stillness that seemed, to an observer unfamiliar with their physiology, like furniture. A second Vethal cadet, front row, closest to Cade, had shifted her desk approximately 4 inches to the left, which was the full range of adjustment the desk allowed. Cade had noticed her. He regarded her thoughtfully. He put his chin back down on his paws and released a long, slow breath through his nose. The second Vethal cadet held very still. Slides 13 and 14 were summary material, integration protocols, contact procedures, the recommended behavioral frameworks for Earth-proximate training environments. The briefing officer's voice was exactly as measured as it had been at the start. Her free hand, the one not holding the slate, was resting against her thigh with a deliberateness that suggested she had placed it there intentionally and was monitoring it. On slide 15, she stopped. Not at the end of a sentence. In the middle of one, she stopped, looked down at the data slate, and then looked at Cade. Cade was not doing anything. Cade was asleep. He had gone to sleep somewhere around slide 13, and he was now producing the slow, barely audible sound of a large dog breathing in the easy, total way of an animal that has never had cause to sleep lightly. The briefing officer looked at the sleeping dog for a moment. She set the slate down on the console. Orientation session OC-7 is suspended, she said. Please exit in an orderly manner. The resumption schedule will be distributed through standard channels. Nobody moved for about 3 seconds. Then they moved. I gathered my notes and Cade's leash. Cade woke up the way he always woke up, which was completely, one moment unconscious, the next sitting with his ears up, checking the room for anyone who needed to be greeted. The room was mostly empty by then. He found the last Vethal cadet making her way toward the door, and thumped his tail anyway, at her retreating back. She did not look around. I took Cade to the canteen. He had a bowl of water and I had coffee, and we sat by the window that looked out over the docking ring. It was a clear day, by station standards, the distant planet visible through the transparency, the traffic light on the approach lanes. The official session record, which I was copied on 6 days later, logged the suspension as OC-7, Kesavar Annex, postponed pending environmental review of Chamber 11, classification of in-room biological factor under assessment, estimated resumption date to be confirmed. The estimated resumption date was not confirmed in the following 4 weeks, which was as long as I was stationed at Kesavar. I asked, once, what the biological factor classification had landed on. The administrative clerk looked at me, then she looked at Cade, who was sitting at my heel looking back at her, with his ears up and his mouth slightly open. Pending, she said. Cade wagged at her. She stamped my form and did not make eye contact again. The form was for a routine housing extension. It was approved in 40 seconds, which was the fastest approval I received during my entire time at Kesavar Station. I did not connect these facts. I am still not sure whether I should.